Mullet. Eugene Mullet.
Yeah, they're stealing my jokes. Good evening, everybody, or hello whenever you're watching this. I'm Phil, the Issues Guy from IssuesProgram.com, and I'm here to recap this week's episode of The Walking Dead. A lot of crap happened this week, and I have a lot of stuff to get through. So we're going to go from beginning to end and talk about all the important things. There could be a cure. Is Jenner really still alive somewhere? Is he the guy in Washington? Did he sneak off? Did the place not really blow up? He snuck out through an underground cavern with the help of the Dharma Initiative? I got all sorts of lost feelings in this episode. But anyways, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk a lot about this episode. But I'm not alone this week. I have with me a friend that I usually talk like a girl, like a couple little teenage girls when we're watching the episode back and forth. This and all our little shows, texting back and forth.
Oh, we got a crossover character too from our shows, which is perfect.
Yeah, we do have a couple of crossover characters, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Smith, aka Dirty-Dreadz-Joe, over here. Hey Joe, how's it going?
It's going good. How you doing?
Cool, I'm doing all right. Now Joe is broadcasting special from his phone today. This is actually from a telephone. He's got the rotary phone. It has a camera built in. It's how it works.
It's a switchboard phone.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing like that. It has all the attachments. You push a button, a little bird comes flying out. Oh. So we have a lot to talk about with this Walking Dead episode tonight, and I think I don't want to step on what the most important things that came out of this episode is. And I think the most important thing that came from this is a cure? ? I mean, I kind of call bullshit on Dr. Mullet. Do we really think this is a cure? I mean, this is the last time we heard about a cure was back in season 1 with the whole Jenner thing. And I know that wasn't necessarily part of the comic books. Because this is a television show, do you think the Walking Dead universe kind of has to have an end? Do we need to find a cure at some point here? Like, is this real? Is this just a red herring? What are your thoughts on the cure, Joe?
I have big skepticisms about Mr. Mullet, Eugene. I mean, it's classified. What on earth could be classified to the 1% of the population that's left roaming around?
Absolutely. It's a lot of bullshit. It just smells of like somebody that just doesn't know what they're really talking about. Yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, just take the sergeant's advice, for example. He says that we've lost them. We haven't been able to get in touch with them for 2 days. Well, you're telling me to give up on my wife. You're telling Glenn to give up on his wife and don't go back for her because she's dead. But these people in Washington, D.C., one of the most heavily packed places on the East Coast, like, come on.
Now, I've gone back.
Philly right there, Baltimore right there, Washington, D.C. right there. The surrounding metropolitan area is huge. The amount of zombies walking around there, they're going to get through? They're going to get to some hidden bunker that this guy's talking to weird people on a satellite phone? Come on.
I put it later in the notes, but you touched upon an important issue there. Seriously, are all the cities completely fucked? I mean, that's the one place that you don't want to go to at all. Cities are destroyed, and they're not answering the phone anymore. Pretty sure that they're dead. They're dead, and don't go there or you're going to be dead too. This guy and it's kind of gone back and forth, and we'll talk about the process of going with this guy. But Abraham, I forget his last name, I have it written down somewhere. Abraham Ford. It started off where I thought that maybe he was had a group behind him, but you get the feeling by the end of the episode that he's kind of all alone, that he only has this small little group, and he's probably the only one that believes Dr. Mullet. I mean, do we buy Dr. Mullet's story? I don't. I think it's as bullshit as his stupid haircut is. I mean, what happens? You should have a rat tail. What's with the mullet these days?
He is from the South, that colorful neck area,
Yeah, something like that. It's just a load of hooey.
The NASCAR belt, for a better term.
Now, I do I do want to connect to something that was said in the first season that's kind of important, I guess. Is that Jenner mentioned that there are some people working on a cure, that they were looking into it, that his wife possibly could have come up with a cure if she didn't die first.
Yeah, she was supposed to be the super scientist genius, and she was the only one that could have come up with the cure. They had lost touch. France was the last to fall, and all the other CDCs around the world, equivalents from other countries, had already fallen. And France was the last one that they knew about that was still up.
Now,
and they hadn't heard from them in forever.
I think you're in the same boat as I am, that you are familiar with the comics, but but you haven't read them all. You don't know the comics from beginning to end type thing.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So you don't know if this storyline that part's. I know Abraham comes from the comics, but I don't know if his story started out with something like this too, like trying to find the cure or trying to find the reason for all this happening. I smell that this is television invented. Same with Jenner, because with comic books you kind of want the story to go on forever. With television, you do want it to go on forever, but people eventually do want a story. There needs to be some sort of structure, some meaning behind all of what's going on. So it's interesting to see if this cure is just going to end up being bullshit, or if it's going to be something, or if it's going to lead us somewhere. I personally think it's going to be bullshit.
Well,
that's just my opinion.
I don't think it's going to be bullshit or anything else. I think he's a red shirt. Ultimately, I think Mr. Mullet is a red shirt, and he's going down, and that's how we get Ford in the hut shorts there. Cutie with the nice little Daisy Dukes and the tied-up shirt. That's how we get them back to Rick and Glenn back there.
It's funny you said Mullet is a red shirt. I kind of thought the same thing. I expected him to die in that situation right away. We'll get to talking about that specifically, but that was just a bunch of dumbasses. This guy's the only guy that has that they have to save the world, theoretically.
Right.
And they're over there fighting about bringing Glenn along because he has a super cop Kevlar suit. So they're like, oh yeah, he's more important than the one guy that knows the cure. Yeah, let's leave him alone by the truck. Come on.
Right?
What a bunch of more. I went around and back with Abe, thinking he was a good guy, thinking he was dangerous, thinking he was a good guy, thinking he was really cool and really secure and could do a lot of stuff, to thinking he was a dumbass like the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm bouncing back and forth about the character, too. I'm glad Michael Cudlitz is playing the character. He's a good actor. I enjoyed him in Southland. I enjoyed him in Band of Brothers, a couple movie roles he's been in here and there, like The Negotiator.
Negotiator. I was just about to say that. He was in The Negotiator as the one guy that believed
the sniper.
He
didn't take the shot.
I cannot take that shot, sir. I cannot take that shot, sir.
I cannot take that shot. Nice.
That was his big line in the movie. You're off duty, sir. You're off duty. With
that the toothpick the whole time.
Yep. He was. What an awful movie. Okay, so it was a pretty good movie, but it was at the height of Kevin Spacey and Samuel Jackson's ego, so there's like nothing special there. Okay, so let's stay on point. So let's get back to this episode. And I guess the one other point from the beginning, because the most important thing that comes out of this is kind of what I was saying. Is a cure thing, is an end in sight coming with the television show? I think it's a lot of hooey. I agree with Joe that it's probably just to bring the character of Abraham in because he's a fan favorite from the comic books, similar to the way that they had to bring Tyrese in eventually, whether it's organic or not. And I found this the way he showed up and the whole scene very comic booky. This whole season, I feel, it seems a lot more, even like what's happening in the scenes are looking like coming straight out of panels and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that angle they used on the truck pulling up is a very comic booky kind of angle. And then, of course, you know that when they do show up and he makes that line about what else you got, that pose that the three of them are making, Eugene, Hut Shorts, and Sergeant Ford, is a still straight from the comic books.
Yeah, they were talking about. Yeah, they were talking about that on The Talking Dead last week. It was straight. It was one of the most iconic shots from the Walking Dead comic book. So the episode opens up, and right away we know that there's no. You can kind of just tell, or I'll tell you right off the bat. There's no Daryl in this episode. There's no kids with Tyrese and Carol. There's no Maggie, drunk guy, and Tyrese's sister. None of those guys. None of those people are in this episode. And we'll get to what's coming up. We'll get to what's coming up next episode, but it seems like next episode's going to be a all Daryl and Beth episode. So. Maybe the other ones will pop in, but I remember them talking about, or I've heard talk that there's at least one episode this season that's supposed to be completely all Daryl heavy. So I assume that's probably going to be the next one from the scenes that we're seeing. But back to this episode. We start off right after the incident with Glenn, with the army guys, the guy in red at that point because we didn't know his name, and we talked about this already, but do we know him from the books? We both know that he is from the comic books. She's about to, and then some walkers show up, and Tara is about to shoot them and go all sports lily whatever and fire the gun. And then this is where I thought, Joe, this is where I thought this guy isn't a dumbass. He goes, "Don't fire the gun," and he pulled out a knife and just started beating the shit and slicing these guys up.
Tire iron. He had a tire iron.
Tire iron. That's awesome because many times
he put that thing right into the side of the truck, right through the metal. Don't pin the zombie to the truck.
Absolutely, and actually smart because he's not making any noise. And she says she's impressed and she's smiling, and maybe she'll no.
Well, she doesn't say she's impressed. She just says she's never seen that before. Him smile, and he was like, "Oh, you've done that. I saw you doing that."
Yeah,
but she was talking about the smile, the joy.
That kind of reminded me a little bit of Good Guy Merle in a way, because we have seen it. We've seen it with Merle killing people. He definitely killing.
We've seen it. We've seen it, but she hadn't seen it yet.
No,
the governor only killed. He never was happy about killing zombies. He was only happy about killing Herschel.
Chopping off his head.
Yep.
I didn't watch that episode of The Walking Dead. Did we get headless Herschel Walker?
No. The head was still alive, though. Michonne put the head down at the beginning of that second episode. Or the beginning of the first episode or something, I forget.
For you kids listening to this that don't know, Herschel Walker, who's now an MMA fighter, used to be a professional football player. And Herschel Walker...
100 years old, are you sure he's an MMA fighter?
Yeah, he's in like amazing shape. He kicks some serious ass. You can Google that to fact check me if you want. It's pretty accurate.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of the sickest athletes ever on the planet. Anyways, so back to this. So and he says I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and right away you start to get a hint of this guy, and I'll get into it later, but this guy definitely has a specific characteristic. So we go to a commercial break, and then we're back to Carl, almost being a kid again, and sitting there at the table with Michonne and doing the Michonne and him joking.
One thing about him being the luckiest guy in the world, there, you got to think he's a soldier, so he's used to killing actual people, which kind of is supposedly not supposed to feel good to anybody, even soldiers. So. Where he's not killing soldiers, he just gets to go around killing as many zombies as he wants and just ultimately putting them down and putting them out of their misery. He is in a good place. He's in his heaven. He gets to do ultimate killing all the time, and it's not really killing.
Yeah, and he gets to do it with someone he loves and fighting. Because I guess I'll get to it now.
Well, we heard her say that she obviously loved him, but we don't know that those two are in love. They could just be, have just met 20 days ago or something. We don't know that they're in love. We haven't seen enough of them two together to know that. She just assumes that she's the hottie, he's the beefcake, they must be together and in love. But she ultimately just turns around and walks away and follows Glenn. Yup, he's right. Going that way. Peace.
That guy obviously has a little bit of a superhero complex, though. He wants to save the world. We're on an important mission. We're here to save the world, and that's what kind of makes this guy stupid a little bit. He seems like he's into it for the adventure of it. Because you're right. Because it seems to me even beyond what you're saying with him just being a soldier, him being someone that probably went into the army because he wants to fight for the good guys to do the right thing, and to him he's in his ultimate place where the lines are so completely drawn between what's good and what's evil. That he's fighting the good fight, doing what he can. You know,
Exactly.
Superman. You know, super
Yep.
cop.
Hoorah!
Yeah, exactly. A lot of hoo-ah. That's funny. I had a devil's advocate line later when they look at the painting. It looks like Charlize Theron after Al Pacino.
I love it.
Yeah, that was on there anyway. Okay, so we get back. So we were over after the commercial break to Carl and Michonne sitting at the table, and Carl's actually being a kid. I think a couple days in the house, domesticated, eating all the pudding, playing Xbox, finding a way. I'm gonna just in my imagination imagine that he found a way to get a power generator and get the Xbox working. So he's somehow being a kid for a while, and him and Michonne have a good sort of motherly, fun relationship between the two of them, and they're talking back and forth. And somehow, out of the blue of them talking, he says something like, "Oh, something Judith," and then he just stops, and suddenly we get grumpy, sad Gus Carl again. It's like snap right back into, "Oh, I'm a kid. I'm happy. Oh, I'm doing all these things. Oh, look at my cereal. Haha, I stole all the cereal, Michonne. Your dreadlocks are funny. Oh God, you look, you should be Guinan in the Star Trek: The Next Generation remake. If they ever do one, you'd be the perfect Guinan. Oh, blah 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 blah, or whatever." And then Carl is once the name Judith comes up, Carl gets really hinky. It gets really weird. And gets back to being like sad face, oh poor Carl, and you gotta feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, he got to forget for a few minutes, and then he forgot. It's only been like a day that she's been dead, 2 days tops,
And I think that ultimately becomes the theme of the episode in a lot of ways with the two of them. It's all about Michonne trying to remind Carl of his childhood and to not let that die in him. In a sense, because she's made the decision that all the stuff she dealt with in last episode with the flashbacks and all that was her way of getting over it. She mentions it a couple times. I have it written here, and I'll probably say it again. But she mentions at one point, "I'm done running. I'm done worrying about things. She's not gonna close herself off. There's no point to it. Why not make human contact at this point? She knows. She's dealt with loss. She knows what loss is. Loss will happen. You can either give up and not make connections with anyone, in which case you are the zombie that you're walking with. Mm-hmm.
Or you can connect with people and have that human connection. That's what's keeping her human. Yep. I think she came to that realization when she was walking with the herd, and she had her little chained up zombies with her again. She realized she was just a zombie. She had given up at that. That's just as much giving up as the people she flashed back. Her lover killing himself, and her lover's friend killing, or brother, or whatever that was, killing. So. She decided no.
And I think finding Rick and Carl, and actually the luck of it all was the last thing for her to realize. Maybe this good can happen again. It's a positive thing because she's been in a long process of warming up. I have to say that the actress that came on. I guess I'll give The Walking Dead credit for this, for writing her so cold in a way that it now makes sense why she would be that cold and reserved, and then seeing slowly but surely her real personality coming out, to the point in this episode when she makes reference to the soy milk thing, and you get a little bit of a feel of what she was before, because we saw in the last episode that she was a little yuppie-ish and a little uptighty type thing. So it's interesting to see how the actress is bringing all those other parts of Michonne out, and I think it's working. I think she's one of the most interesting things going on in the show right now. She's very, very interesting.
Absolutely, it shows exactly why she never opened up to Andrea, and Andrea proved her point as to at that time why she never opened up to Andrea, and she knew that wasn't how to live anymore. That's why she lost Andrea. That's why she was going to lose Rick and Carl if she had just given up. And she was giving up and basically doing exactly what her lover and friends did.
Let's be real.
What everybody in that room did that she walked in on, the family suicide. Mm-hmm. That was another reminder of exactly what what her lover did.
And let's be real about Andrea. Andrea has her own issues and problems. Andrea's not all there. She has some serious problems herself. She's a little fucked in the head. So Rick is out of the coma.
Worst character on the show at any point in time was Andrea, as far as I'm concerned. I was so happy when she finally was gone. I think it should have happened sooner, and I'm disappointed it didn't. Either that, or they should have really deviated from the books, and had Shane and Andrea run off together, and maybe had hooked up with the governor, who was like-minded with Shane, and had that been the face down at the prison. Shane and the governor and Andrea versus all the other prisoners and everything.
Oh, now you're living in fan fiction land. So,
yeah, I am.
So Rick seems to be the man that has amazing powers of getting out of comas or whatever. So Rick's out of whatever he was in last week, whatever we want to call it.
Internal bleeding and.
Yeah. Rick's fine. Rick made it through that all right. He's doing good now. He's sliding around the house. He doesn't have that like deep weird Batman tone to his voice like he did last episode.
Dude, who choked someone to death with a hairdryer cord or some shit.
Yeah. Rick's doing fine this week. Rick's doing awesome this week. So
just when you thought it was safe to take a shit on the toilet, Rick Grimes busts in and chokes you to death with a blow dryer cord. Bam!
He's one grimy motherfucker, that Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
So Rick's voice is back to normal. We mentioned this before.
Got a gun. He got a gun and bullets out of that deal too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Michonne's done taking breaks, and by her saying that, I think this is officially the start of our showmance. I think this is the start of the Michonne. I mean, it started already, but I think this is the official starting point of Michonne and Rick. Rishonne. This is the start of Rishonne here. I think because she's sticking around and showing that she's going to be a part of the family, and in this episode she really put out her claim to be Carl's mother, and she says to him, "What's the plan? Is this are we staying here long term, or are we gonna move on?" And he says, "Wait a damn second. I was just in a coma 2 days ago. I need a break here. Let me just sit here for 5 minutes and stop my internal bleeding." So she's like, "I'll go out for supplies, and we're gonna stay here for a bit. Michonne's gonna take Carl to get supplies." And then Rick's first. It was kind of a weird editing moment. I made a note because it was like we saw Michonne walk off, and it seemed like we were following Michonne and Carl, and I was like, oh, Rick's not even going to be a part of this episode. He's just going to kind of sleep it off because he's so injured that they should just let him take the episode off because he obviously.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought that was a dream. Like it was when his eyes were in rapid movement and he was sleeping and we heard the noise. I thought it was just going to be like, okay, Rick's dreaming, and then they were going to go back to them.
Yeah, me too. And even at the beginning there, it was a little weird. And he's trying to sleep. But we flash over to now Michonne and Carl are off and they're walking around talking about comic books, City Find comic books, and what was it? What'd they call it again? Crazy cheese? Because you can't say cheese whiz because of copyright. They couldn't get the cheese whiz license, so they didn't want to pay cheese whiz, so they call it crazy cheese.
Canned cheese.
Canned cheese. So we get a really cute scene with Michonne. We also got a cute scene a little earlier with her borrowing a T-shirt or wearing not a T-shirt, this button-down shirt and being like, I look pretty in my shirt, kind of being very girly and stuff, which was pretty
hilarious. That she washed the other one instead of just throwing it out. You hear the guys talking, "We got a freshly washed woman's shirt down here. Can't wait for her to get home."
Yeah, we're gonna have ourselves a rape party.
It's caked with zombie blood and everything. It's, I don't know, it's a year and a half old. She wants to keep it. Like, come on. Find another house that's got your size. Take a new shirt. It's got to be a lot.
So Carl's like not too happy. He's not happy like he was in Breakfast. So Michonne's kind of pushing. What's wrong? He's like, I'm fine. And it goes into this kind of another cute thing with her trying to make him laugh. And and it's really her way of basically bringing up her son. She's like, I can't make kids your age laugh, but I'm really good at making 3-year-olds laugh. And she mentions that she has a baby, she had a 3-year-old baby that was lost somewhere along the way. She doesn't really mention much about it right there. And it seems this just raised a weird question, and it connects to Judith in that whole situation. How do you deal with a kid in that? And it connects to what happens at the end too. I guess we'll talk about it at that point at the end, but or whatever. We'll talk about it now. What do you do with a kid in that situation? Do you obviously you attempt to keep it. You don't lock it in the room and do the mass suicide thing like the mother did at the house that they were in towards the end. It's scary because ultimately last week with Judith, I kept calling her the zombie alarm because that's what babies are in the zombie apocalypse. They're basically a zombie alarm. Like, come find me, I have a baby. But you need babies because you need to preserve the human race. It's this weird dichotomy that just doesn't work out in the zombie apocalypse. Children, what's the place of children? Do we find not
if you're out roaming around in the Badlands. If you're out roaming around in the Badlands, which is basically anything, like if you have a prison complex like they had, or the governor's town, like those are safe zones where you could potentially start having kids and trying to restart society. I mean, when the 10,000 head herd walks through, that's all done and everybody's dead. You know, a 10,000 head herd would have decimated the town.
I know it costs a lot of money, but I feel like we should see more scenes like we saw last year with the huge, ridiculous herd running through, like with the 80,000 herd. I wouldn't even mind some CG if you just copycatted them a little bit. It would be cool to see that kind of scale. And we were talking about that a little bit on our own, how to make the walkers seem like real threats rather than just foot soldiers that the Ninja Turtles have to slash with their buttons there.
Right. I mean, at this point, it seems like you really can just outrun them unless they're coming from every direction. And the one thing I don't understand is how these big lumbering oafs are able to sneak up on anybody. They're constantly moaning, they don't have the best footing, and they're always grabbing people from behind. I understand if you just walked into a room and there's been one, like the one that was on the floor that bit Herschel's leg, that hasn't, like, kind of woken up yet. But they're lumbering through this thick brush wood. They're not, like, tiptoeing. And they just walk up behind you and grab you. That makes no sense.
The ones that bother me are the fact that any of our main characters can wrestle with them with tank tops on and they don't get a scratch. But if we have, like, a red shirt in the situation, they immediately, if one just, they can't struggle for a second. You know, our main characters have zombie force fields in some cases. I mean, the show will kill main characters, but you know what I mean. The episode a couple episodes ago with Carl,
he should have been a goner. He should have been a goner. It just didn't bite him. It just wouldn't bite him. It's like the leg is right there. You have his shoe. He's not getting away. Why didn't it bite him?
Yeah, he just has zombie repellent on because he has main character zombie repellent. It's
the
hat.
Beth too. Beth should have died. It snuck out of the bush and she even heard it and pulled her knife out, but it still snuck up on her. Yeah, she should have been a gun.
Beth was the other one, and she was wearing a tank top. I'm like, how is she not scratched right now? This is horrible. This is bad news right here. Bad show. Bad show.
Like, they don't seem like the zombies are even that scary in the show right now. There's not really any time in the last bunch of episodes where I've been like, oh my god, the zombies are coming, someone might die.
They've done a little bit better of a job this year of getting me in a couple of jump scares and stuff like that. But I think the scene that they had the best use of the zombie scale was the one I was telling about, like when they're all in the car and they drive around and you just see the army of them marching that way. And I think they did. Yeah, and I think they did an okay job at the prison, showing what they could do, but that was more what the governor did, not what the zombies would do on their own. And that just stunk of laziness too, because they just let them pile up. It was like they weren't stopping them. They just like, oh yeah, okay, they're all piling up at the east gate. Should we stop that? I don't know. Let's you stop them. Rick's over there farming.
Right. They should have been clearing the gate constantly. There's no reason for not. Like, at the very least, there should be one person all day long poking skulls down along the fence. You can trade them out every 4 hours if they get tired. But someone's got to be doing that.
Carl might have said some harsh things to Rick, but part of what he said where they were all counting on you, you were their leader. Without Rick there, the leadership sucked. Like the council, which seemed okay at the beginning of the season, now you get down to it, the council had no plan. The council didn't have a meetup location. The council didn't have anyone work in the tower. Seeing a tank roll up to the to the edge of the gate, couldn't hear the tank roll up. The council didn't have the right shifts going on at the fence duty, even though they had a whole new resurgence of groups in. The council didn't approve of Carol training kids how to use weapons. God damn it, they should be in there like the Jedis training those small Padawan children.
Right, there would be no reason to keep that a secret. There's no reason to keep that a secret. You're in the zombie apocalypse. Your children need to learn how to survive. There's
That's
no
why
like, walk to school, kids. You're safe. Like what?
I don't want to get into the discussion again because we had a long discussion about this at the time. That's why I was saying at the time, Carol is the only sane one. Was the only sane one at the time because she was the only one thinking, realizing what kind of world they were actually in. Where yeah, we need to make sure the kids have fun and everything, but we also need to train them how to kill because that's what they're going to be doing in this world. But we don't have to because ultimately what happened to all those people that they tried to protect inside the prison by not teaching them how to survive, all of them got killed. We're looking at the few people that survived the prison.
Right. All of them. I did a count last week after watching the show, and my like tally of prisoners that are dead is basically it came up to like 27. I counted about 27 of our prison population either dead or still alive. So that turned out to be about right. All 13 dead on the bus. Or
now, are
12.
any of the original? I was just gonna call it Mayberry, Woodbury, or any of the Woodbury people that moved?
All dead.
They're all dead. Yeah, between the flu and that, they killed them all. So that was really useful bringing them in, guys. Good job there, Sean. Good job there.
It was either 12. There was 10 dead outside the bus, and I think 2 dead on the bus. That's 12. Then there was like 2 guys killed in the fight. Remember, one of them comes running out from the prison and gets shot. Like it should have hit Daryl or Ty or something, but like went right by them or Maggie or someone, I forget, and it hit a couple of those guys. Then a bunch of people died from the illness, from the
flu thing, whatever that was.
So yeah, they killed them all off. And if that other piece of fan fiction thing that I texted you about earlier today is true, that does explain a lot with Carol.
Yeah.
With her weird psychosis.
What we were talking about was thinking that Lizzie, the girl that's into suffocating babies and choking rabbits, that actually she killed Tyrese's girlfriend and the other initial patient 0 sick people to try to protect everybody, or that she's just sick and twisted, and Carol took the blame.
Well, a little bit of both, sick and twisted and trying to stop them from becoming walkers. Not necessarily because they were sick, because she doesn't know, she doesn't have that kind of thought yet,
Or just with like her and Carl specifically, they're both the John Connors of this world in a sense. They're and I've heard what's his name, Chris Hardwick.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm kind of stealing it from Chris Hardwick. I'll give him credit, saying that Carl is the John Connor, but I think she is in a sense too of this world, raised in that world, and thinking about things from a different sense. She's thinking about things like Shane was, and similar to the way Carol does, because I don't think. But Carol still has a little bit of an emotional connection to people because of everything she's been through, and still remembers her old life and what it is to be happy, even though she's probably happier in this life than she was with that piece of shit husband she had. But at least she had Sophia and all that sort of stuff. But I think Lizzie is just born of this world, understands things, unlike her dumbass sister that wants to.
I don't put that. That's not the feeling I get. Lizzie's a sick little girl. Lizzie would be doing this whether she was in the apocalypse or not. What she's doing is beyond that.
You think Lizzie's just a sick and twisted little
I
girl?
think what everybody was trying to say about Carl, because Carl shot that kid that raided the prison, that first governor raid. I think Carl did the right thing. They said put the gun down. He didn't put it down. He stepped forward. Any cop would have done the same thing. Herschel was wrong. I think Carl was right. That's
Herschel Herschel could be a sensitive little guy a little sometimes. Herschel's a little sensitive. It was a little sensitive. My people.
It shocked him that a little boy did that, but it was the right thing to do. I think he didn't put the gun down. He wasn't surrendering. He was moving in. Period.
It reminds me of sorry, weird aside. Reminds me of a Casino towards the end when one of the guys gets shot. He has a sandwich in his pocket. He got shot because he had a submarine sandwich in his pocket. So right after that scene where we have Carl kind of pushes the questions on Michonne about her kid, and it kind of turns it into a game again, doing what we were saying. Trying to make it playful for Carl to make him feel a little bit more like a kid, I think. And it wasn't bad. It was effective in that sense that kind of got him smiling, got him pushing again. And we'll see if it got to the ultimate outcome that she was trying to get, and I think it did. So we go back to Rick, and we already talked about this scene. This is him sleeping and waking up and hearing two guys arguing, and some fucked up shit happening. It could have been outside, could have been in the house. I thought it might have been outside. Joe knew right away it was out in the house. Some evil-sounding shit seemed to happen, and this is where we now know why it was some evil-sounding shit, because this was Mayor Hale, and we know he's up to some weird stuff in Charming. You know the kind of things he would do to get Charming Heights built. Built. And he's really pushing it right now. And you mentioned this in the messages, and it's true. They did a really good job of making that you wonder if Rick was dreaming or hallucinating or if this was reality. They really kind of set that pretty good.
Yep.
And right at this point, I wrote a question that I was thinking, and this kind of goes to something that you text me. It triggered me. Do you want everybody to find their places and re-find each other and kind of get back to having every episode be everybody's story, or do you like what they've been doing since the Governor episodes, where they're kind of taking their time and having episodes focus on one or maybe two people individually? Do you like that, or do you wish they would just hurry the fuck up already and get into the story?
At first, when they first started doing that, I think they did it with like Michonne and Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that it really didn't sit well with me, because I wanted to find out the cliffhangers from the week before and the things that they made me care about the week before. But the more they've done it, the more I really enjoy it. I think it's great. It makes it a little hard to follow a timeline. But as long as you keep it like this episode is taking place at the same time as the next episode or the last episode, then you can kind of keep track of it. I really enjoy it. It allows them to take time and really character build. I hope to see more of it, but I really do hope to see, and they can do it, and they've done it, because they go out on missions and they go out on scavenger hunts and they stay with those people sometimes for the whole time they're out.
Again, this was another. It just reminded me of Lost. It reminded me of like side missions of, we're on a mission with Saeed this week and seeing where he's going in his whole adventure, and it's going to be split with the Sawyer and Kate story back and forth. I got a couple of weird Lost vibes with the Maggie and Glenn thing, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, as far as the Lost thing, I didn't get that far into Lost. I watched the first season and the first episode of the second season, and that destroyed it for me.
Fair enough. But the Lost thing that I'm thinking about is that Maggie. I'll get to it when I make my reference when we get there. So we go back to Rick, and these guys are in the house, and he's hiding under the bed, moving around at a nice brisk pace, considering he was gaping blood 2 days ago. But whatever. And Joe and I both at the same time were wondering if these are the same guys, or these guys were connected to Sergeant Red over there, Abraham Ford. What was his last name? Abraham Ford. I'll just think of the car. Abraham Ford. Ford Escort.
Oh yeah.
So he's under the bed.
He's a Ford Escort because he's escorting Mr. Mullet to DC.
Exactly. Hey, that ended up working out. That ended up working out better than I wanted it to.
I like it.
Unintentional fun. So we get the classic under the bed thing with that we see in so many different television shows or movies, with Rick hiding under the bed and his watch is ticking, and will the guy see it? But the guy's shaking the bed and blah blah blah. Then he jumps on the bed and kind of crashes. We go back to Carl and Michonne, and he's more pushing about the baby stuff. She's asking about cookies. She's trying to just be very playful and kitty-like with him, and just again trying to get the child out of him. You could have summed up. I could not even have to talk about the rest of the Carl and Michonne scenes, and I probably should just skip ahead because it's like repeating myself. Because it seemed like over and over it was the same thing until we got a little bit later into what Michonne found in the hidden bedroom, and for the most part it was still basically the same. Well,
it was a little different because at first it's her trying to do what Rick pointed out. It was her trying to make him laugh and like that, and that didn't work. And I think there's more because even Carl catches it. She says toddlers, not I can make a toddler laugh, or I could make a toddler laugh. She says I can make toddlers laugh. She might be a preschool or young child teacher. So she might know how to get a kid out of the shell.
You might be onto something. You might be onto something because of the way she, and I think you were probably about to say it, because of the way she handles Carl. She definitely shows that she has experience working with kids that age. She doesn't talk down to him, but she talks to him in a level that he would understand.
Just like last in the episode where they go and they meet I forget his name, the guy from the first season, first episode, and he's alone in town, and shown him and Rick and Carl.
What's his name? Morgan.
Yeah. And she does the same thing with him there. She treats him like an adult. She stays with him. She talks to him. She tries to get him out of the shell a little bit, and it works there. And she does it again, and the way she does it in the house by saying, "I'll give you one answer per room after it's clear." It's a way to make the conversation last. Instead of giving him all the information he wants and letting him close back down again right then and there. She says, "I'll do it, but we're going to do it on my terms," and she's going to pull Carl along, even though they're simple answers. They're no real secrets, like she says. It's not a secret, but she knows that Carl's going to look at it like she's opening up to him.
Absolutely.
Your father never asked, so I never told him. It's not a secret, but I'm sharing with you because you're asking. And she's going to make that conversation drag out, and she's going to engage with Carl for the next few hours instead of the next few minutes.
So after that, we find out in that little situation that her child's name was Andre Anthony. Oh, God, two first names, Michonne. Come on.
I thought she said laundry at first. I was like, really, laundry? Like dirty or clean laundry? And my girl Katie's like, no, it's Andre. I was like, oh.
Almost as bad. Dirty laundry, Andre. And do you want a cookie? Do you want a peanut? So she kind of plays the thing. Oh, rules of the game. I'm not going to tell you. We have to check every room before I give you a clue. Same stuff, but we're talking back and forth and making him feel like a kid and making him bring back some wonder and fun and some Disney magic back into his life. Carl finds a painting and asks how long it's been. Kind of hands or the painting asks how long it's been since her child died. I thought this was the most bullshitty moment of the entire episode, Joe, and I'll tell you why. Carl asks her, how long has it been? And we finally are going to get an idea of how long it's been since Rick got out of the coma. How long has it been since day one, since all of this started? And her response is, quote unquote, after everything that happens. Good job, show. Good job avoiding any time period whatsoever. It's like, how long has it been after everything that happened?
You referenced it earlier, so I'll reference it now. The Talking Dead, there was an interview with Andrew Lincoln, and he says it's been a year and a half since the start of the apocalypse. So they've been on the road, and they know that anybody in Badlands that's not in a town or the prison complex or something like that is going to be murderers, rapists, killers, thugs, all that stuff.
I don't know if that timeline works out, but I'll buy it. I'll buy it. We'll accept it.
There's been at least one winter and 2 summers.
Okay. Has there only been one winter? Have we only seen one winter?
As far as I know, we've only seen one winter. They got to the prison right after winter, at spring.
Right, the winter that Michonne and Andrea spent together, and the winter that the core group of 5 of them or whatever with T-Dog and they got to be the badass killing machine type group.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So Michonne opens up the painting and it's sick. It looks like the Devil's Advocate, Charlize Theron being raped all cut. And I suddenly think that the show is going to do something really sick here and kind of go the serial killer route, like they're in some serial killer's house that lures people in for safety and ends up hacking their bits up or something. My mind went through all these interesting cases that were in this cross between the Deep Space Nine episode where Kara is kidnapped and tortured by a Cardassian to that brothel, not that brothel, what's the kind of play, Hostel, or like the Hostel movie, like we're going to be in a hostel.
I thought it was going to be more like Aliens, the little girl stuck on the alien planet alone, some little animal child that's been living alone for a year and a half, the family dead, gone, just locked away in the house, eating like the same loaf of bread for the last 7 months.
I think fair enough that we both thought something more interesting than actually happened was going to happen. So Michonne's walking around and.
Well, no, I liked it because again, it brought Michonne right back to that flashback that we had a few episodes ago, where she thinks about her family killing themselves, saying, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this? We might as well just take our own lives." And then she walks into that room and sees that, and it reaffirms that was not the right way to go to her, I think.
Yeah, it reaffirms, fuck that. I don't want to live that way. No, I hear you. For what we got from what was going through my imagination, it was a moderate letdown for like the excitement level I had built up to what was about to happen. I'm like, oh my god, it's going to be something really, really awesome. Oh, okay, it's a dead family. Okay, there's no danger here. And it just, the show did a good job. I'm not saying it's a bad thing for the show, just it did a good job of building up that tension. I just feel like the payoff was in a way more cerebral, which is a good thing, and I think the show's been striving to do that a lot more than shock value, which again isn't a bad thing. It's just a thing.
Right.
Are you watching porn?
No, it's True Detectives. True Detectives is. I'm missing the beginning of True Detectives.
Okay,
the first half.
We'll tidy up. I know you can watch it later on the go. So it's on very quick. I'm gonna wait till the end of the first season, but I'm definitely gonna go to that show. I hear great things.
It is great.
I hear great things. So Carl finds the painting, but anyways, basically Michonne wanders into this room that has all these dead people that had killed themselves in the family. We talked about it, and she's looking for Carl, and Carl pops out, and she kind of protects Carl from going in there. And I think Joe's right about she kind of has a realization that she doesn't want to live that way. Anytime she feels about killing herself again, like she doesn't want to live that way. She made the right decision. She thinks of that as find as much joy in life as you can, even in this hellhole. And that's what she's trying to give across to Carl. She's lucky. She knows she's lucky finding good people in this world because, again, like Joe was saying, most of the people alive right now are probably not the best people. It's probably not a lot of good people going on.
Right.
And finally, from all of that, from opening up with everything about her kid, Carl, we finally get Carl opening up about it. We see what's really bothering him, even though we knew already, but he finally says it, which is obviously very important when you're trying to get over something, that he named Judith. And you can just see he feels everything that he was saying, yelling at Rick about that. If we remember back to the prison situation, Carl really feels responsible for what he feels like is Judith's death. And I really do hope, for Carl's sake, that we find Judith, or that everything goes okay with Tyrese and all of them, and they find each other. And for his sake, I hope he gets a little joy knowing that she's not dead. because he's obviously really freaking hurting over there, and especially if he gets to a good place before that with Michonne on him. I think it could be really good. Carl's heading to be that John Connor. So we head back to Rick, and at this point we were both thinking about the guys at the house and wondering who they were. And then we get a weird scene of the two guys in the bedroom having sort of like a pirate movie where it's like, "Arr, I'm gonna kill you for the bed." Arr.
I know, over a bed.
Yeah,
over a freaking bed.
What was that? It was like these two guys that are supposed to be kind of friendly and stuff, and they're. I mean, it doesn't make a shitload of sense at all in that situation. That was just a lot of hooey. That was a lot of hooey. A little bit of hooey there.
Yeah, that band got smaller by a couple of people.
Yeah, like way to go, Hale. As usual, you're running things right into the ground.
Yep.
And you mentioned this in the message. They leave the dead guy on the floor, just to zombie out on them.
Right.
Yeah. So we
and
go
then
back.
Rick leaves the little zombie bomb. He opens the door so the zombie will get out.
Yeah.
He doesn't like immediately. I thought, oh, stab him in the head before he turns into a zombie and eats you. But Rick didn't, and Rick opened the door and went out the window.
Dumbasses. So we go back to Glenn and what's her name?
Which is a page out of the governor's book, by the way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So Glenn and Maggie are both like Bernard and what's her name from a Lost reference, but they both know each other is alive, and they're gonna find Rose and Bernard on Lost. He cares. He's in the back of the truck of the army guy of what's his name, Captain Ford there, or whoever it is, Abraham Ford, and he cares about the bus full of people, but really he just cares about Maggie. They drive past the bus 3 hours ago, and the whole bus was dead. In fact, Maggie killed everyone on the bus, but that's whatever.
And that's like 4 days of walking. He's got 3 or 4 days of walking ahead of him if they don't find another car.
Exactly.
And if they find another car vehicle, like Mullet said, they're just going to start going back towards DC again.
Exactly, because they're saving the world, and that's what happens right here. We talked about this at the beginning. We get the whole. Glenn stops the car, and he gets into the soldier's face, and the soldier's like, "I'm here to save the world. You don't get it, sir." This is where the soldier starts to seem a little cuckoo, but maybe I don't know if he's really. And we talked about all this at the beginning. It gets a little hinky here with Dr. Mullet and the zombies come out and Glenn's gonna walk three miles away. What is it? 3 hours away, so 60 or so miles away. It's like,
but you do it. You do it. You keep the hope and you do it.
Yeah, I mean, you go out and you look, but again, like I said, you walk and you look for a car. So. Right. This episode, just to go with what you were saying, for the one negative about stories flopping around a lot, this story was kind of like this episode was a cock tease. Every time it got to something about to happen in one of the stories, it would pop over to the other story. We go back to Glenn, and this is when the whole thing happens about, okay, so what's the cure? Tell us what's going on. And Mullet Doctor's like, it's classified, which, again,
yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's a lot of bullshit. There's no classified rules anymore. The rules of the military are over now. Mm-hmm. All mafia ties. It doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? You can break oaths. All blood oaths are gone. Any Klingon honor has been settled. I mean,
right. You want me to walk into one of the most populated places on the East Coast because you say you have a classified way to end the zombie apocalypse?
Exactly, and you won't tell me anything about it. Okay, yeah. Whatever.
You're lucky I don't shoot you in the head now and just go about my business.
And did you get the feeling like Abe over there? He kind of like everything he started to say in this scene started to sound like a recruitment video. He's like, you need to join a higher cause. You don't understand. I don't know how you're living your life, but
It was. It's exactly what it was.
It was ridiculous. It was really kind of ridiculous.
To go with him. He knew he had one person to watch his back. The other guy, what did he do? He sat there and he watched out, until he shot the truck to death.
Yeah, exactly. Then the smart doctor that's going to save the world, the Neo of the world, shoots the truck.
A year and a half into the zombie apocalypse, and he doesn't know how to shoot a gun still.
At least, I know, say what you want about the guy, the governor's, I forget the guy's name, but governor's scientist there, that ended up getting killed. At least he could protect himself a little bit. And same with Jim. So we go back to Rick, and he's under the bed. He tries to sneak out. He basically jumps out the window, and the whole Rick thing amounts to nothing other than the guy bounces a tennis ball around him, whatever. And we talked about this earlier too. He chokes some guy with a telephone cord. Is that what he choked him with?
Yep.
It was a telephone cord. Yep. He choked some guy
or
out that
hairdryer cord or something.
Yeah, some other guy that didn't turn into a zombie.
Well, it showed us that Rick's still a badass. Rick isn't like a guy to be trifled with. He's going to do what it takes, and he's still going to do what it takes. You know, and just because the governor got the best of him doesn't mean everybody is, and he's going to fight until he's dead.
Exactly. Yeah, I find it so funny that Governor has like crazy supervillain powers and can beat the shit out of Rick, but Rick like totally overpowered Tyrese, who looks like could completely kick his ass. I'm just saying, you know, he overpowers Tyrese, but the governor kicks the shit out of him. I don't get that because Governor has super villain powers or something.
Well, Rick was also shot too.
I hear
which is, you know, he's got a bullet in him still probably, which makes all this even more amazing.
Well, speaking of guns, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Speaking of guns, Rick has an Uzi now, and in a very die-hard sort of moment, choking him with the wire, and then getting the gun and checking, half expecting to pull out a cigarette and go yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. It just seems like a moment that was here. In this commercial break, we again illustrated the point that all the cities are fucked. Who's going into the cities at this point in time? The cities are hell. We want to stay the hell out of the cities. So Rick, this is a ridiculous moment I had because we have a scene with Rick opening the window, and it's a very symbolic-looking, deep scene of where you look out into the grass and see his future of blah blah blah. And I just wrote kind of jokingly because this show very rarely ever does anything surreal like that. Rick opens the window to symbolize getting the fuck out of there.
Yep.
So Rick had to get the fuck out of there, and he snuck out Danny DeVito like in twin style off the roof, like he was having sex with someone's wife.
Yeah.
And he slowly comes down and does a flip jump and lands down in superhero crouch. You know, like, perfect crouch.
Hey, he shows some skills.
He did. He showed that even with a bullet in his stomach, he can still jump off the top of the roof. Pretty easy. So we go back to Abe, and instead of him seeming like he has a whole army with him, he really does seem like he's all alone, and maybe he's kind of on the chicken hawk thing, like the sky is falling, or I'm saving the world. Like no, like everyone he's trying to get on his team, and no one's following him. He's like, oh, we gotta go on an adventure and save the world. Come on, guys. I got a guy, I'm a scientist with a mullet. I can save the world. And that's what we have. And that's when we have that whole scene you just talked about where Dr. Mullet says, I'm smarter than you are, other comic book character, and and we should follow these people because we're going to find a car quicker with them, and then we'll head back to DC. So we have our adventure. They're heading off to Mount Doom to drop the ring into the fiery pit. We have our whole like little adventure team of Glenn and Sports Lily and the doctor and the soldier. And then we get our amazing reveal of the episode that the bad guy in the house is none other than the mayor of Charming.
Mayor Hale.
Yeah, no wonder why he's got this shoddy run situation. And Rick runs away and is able to avoid Hale, and he bumps into Michonne and Carl, and they walk away all happy. And
just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time. We'll get back to them in a second. Then we go back to Glenn and Abe, and this is where I write it. Abe really has superhero disorder. He's like, I'm going to save the world. That's all I can do. and let's not find Glenn's wife, let's save the world.
Yep.
And Tara feels bad. She still feels bad, obviously, about her place in the governor's thing. I really don't think she should feel bad. It seems like forced story there. She doesn't have anything to do with it.
She didn't do anything. She didn't shoot anyone. She was gung-ho about it, but didn't. She just stood there and freaked out.
In both situations, like her lover stepped up and was actually fighting in the one gun battle they came in. She went and hid when it came down to it.
Yep.
And we get into a little bit of the whole "are you a good person" argument, and we kind of talked about this before. But what is a good person in this world? Is it somebody that worries about the people that are close to them and protects themselves as a small group? It seemed like Abe was contradicting himself. He was like, you need to stay in a small group, and that's how you survive in this world, and you protect your people by doing X, Y, and Z. But ditch your wife. Let's go to Washington to go get killed in the middle of a city. And
well, he didn't know about the wife, and he's looking at it like we're already halfway to D.C. We can get there and come back if you want, but you know, as far as he's concerned, he was in the middle of something. Came and saved a passed out guy's life.
Fair enough. So we go back at the very end to Rick and Michonne and Carl having
on their way to
going down the track, and they walk into they bump into the same sort of sign that who was it that saw it? Was it the kids?
It was Carol, the kids, and Ty.
Yeah, they saw a similar sign that said something like sanctuary for anybody. Come this way for sanctuary.
Yeah, all who arrive survive, and it's the Terminus city.
The Terminus city. Yeah, I don't know much about what that is, but I've heard many rumors and talks about that. So, and we talked about this before. Next week is Daryl and Beth and the kids too. Do we think that Beth might die next week? Possibly. Could we see Beth dying?
No. They're gonna tease it maybe, but who knows?
So
maybe they kill Daryl.
No,
Beth gets out alive. Daryl throws himself in to save her.
I think people
a little ending, kind of like I Am Legend.
I think people would riot and go crazy in the streets.
Send Daryl out like a hero to save Beth.
Yeah, no, they're gonna milk that Daryl train for as long as it goes. They're not killing him. They're not killing their draw that brings people in. It's similar to Sons of Anarchy with Tig. Tig brings girls in just to check Tig out, or Juice too. They bring in people that watch that show just to see because they find those guys attractive. They're not gonna kill them.
Right.
Same reason. Daryl's their sex appeal. No one finds any other of the guys in the show really that attractive.
Right. He's Mr. Hunt. He's a draw for all the young ladies.
Exactly, and there's a whole crew of people that are into zombie culture and all that stuff that watch the show just for him. But Joe, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'll let you get to your other television engagements and stuff. You're definitely any Sunday that you have off. You're welcome to join us for the rest of the remainder of the Walking Dead season if you do so want to.
Awesome, I enjoyed myself. Thanks for having me.
Cool. I'll send you the link when it's up on YouTube and stuff.
All right, sweet.
Cool. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Have a good night, Phil.
Night, man. So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I am Phil, the Issues Guy from issuesprogram.com. Please like this video, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I appreciate everybody checking this out, and we will be back next week with more Walking Dead talk.